You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 118.2, our girls basketball live scoreboard for Friday night's results in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and Northern Hamilton counties.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, we think you've made the right choice. Today is December 14th, 2024. It's a Saturday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt, here today with Tipton Tribune and Elwood-Madison-Grant sports editor Michelle Garmon. Michelle was at the Tipton Western boys game, and we will have a report for her on that. But for now, we're going to go through some scores and highlights. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Greg. It's always a pleasure to be here.
All right, starting with the local games, just going to run through the scores. Elwood 50, Madison-Grant 19. Elwood's first CIC win in 6 years.
Yes, I will say this. Coach Lickliter was looking forward to that opportunity to get a chance to end that streak and get Elwood its first conference win in 6 years. When I talked to her following their win over Tipton on Tuesday night, and she felt like that, this getting Madison-Grant was a definite possibility as getting another win over Blackford next Friday. So big night for the Panthers.
Alexandria 67, Blackford 22, another step closer to the CIC championship for Alexandria. Frankton beat Eastbrook 51-21. Tri-Central topped Eastern 45-38. McCutcheon got past Kokomo 54-45. Purdue, Poly, Inglewood 68. Anderson 34. The Indians are still winless. And University 55, Burris 18. Just two more games that we might be interested in this area. Greenfield Central picked up a Hoosier Heritage win, 48-35 over New Pal. And Westfield 46, Zionsville 36. Besides Elwood, anything stick out to you, Michelle?
Of course, Alec they're just rolling right along, and I kind of expect them to do that they uh, until they play Oak Hill, and as far as conference action
Right.
goes,
Yeah.
they're going to have that tournament that they have at Richmond, and then the Madison County tournament after that are going to be good tests before that. So
We're going to go through the games one by one, Michelle. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear from you. Elwood 50, Madison-Grant 19. Elwood is now 8-3 overall, and as we said, their first win in the CIC. They're 1-1. Madison-Grant's now 2-8 overall, 1-1 in the CIC. Elwood led 25-10 at the half, and then outscored Madison-Grant 17-0 in the third quarter to put it away. Kendra Salee had 18 points. I don't have rebounding numbers, but they were huge. Breelyn Norris 15, Addie Stout and Kelsey Arms 6 apiece. Madison-Grant was led by Georgia Mitchell 6.
yeah. Again, that doesn't really surprise me. I think the big thing with Elwood is they have a good outside combination. They have a really good, a good point guard in Breelyn Norris, and then a good post player in Kendra Salee, and then freshman Addie Stout. Salee and Stout are just they're warriors on the boards, and
Yes.
so that's a key for Elwood. So again, a winnable. They have a great shot at taking a 3-game win streak into the Christmas break, and they actually have some time, and then they'll come back with the Madison County tournament. So I know that they've got
And they've got
after
an
3-game
opportunity in
losing
the
streak to
Madison
beat Tip. What's that?
and they've got an opportunity in the Madison County tournament to make a run.
Yeah, they do because they're in they got put in the right bracket.
Correct. Yes.
It's there. If that tournament was seeded, it would be a little different. But
Right.
No, they do have a chance to have some uh, success in the Madison County tournament. But the big thing is that success after starting the season 6-0, then losing three to end the 2024 portion of their 24-25 schedule on a 3-game winning streak would just be really big thing for them.
Yes, it
A
would.
program that just is not used to winning. Period. The last few years.
Yeah, big defensive performance for Elwood in the third quarter, shutting out Madison Grant. Just didn't have a lot of good looks, a lot of forced shots. I think the Elwood defense bothered Madison Grant.
Yeah, it probably did because again, I know Jasmine has missed quite a bit of time for Madison Grant, and they just don't have they just don't have a true point guard and maybe a true um, basketball player.
Right.
When I say that, somebody that really understands, is skilled, and that really understands the game.
Yeah, not a lot of full time basketball players there. You know who is a full time basketball player is Elwood's Breelyn Norris. She had another really good game, and I talked to her following the win. So, 8 wins. Talk about getting to 8 wins already at this point in the season.
It's great. I mean, it's more than we've had in the past years, and I think we just need to continue to win. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And first CIC win in 6 years. How big of a deal is that?
That's a huge deal. It's making history, and I hope to continue it on the Blackford game.
Alexandria is 11-0 overall, 2-0 in the CIC after beating Blackford 67-22. Blackford is now 1-8 overall and 0-2. I sorry that I didn't get the chance to research this. Sometimes on these live, quote unquote, live podcasts that we do, I don't get a chance to look up everything. But Jacqueline moved into second or third all time in the county scoring list and outscored Blackford by herself. But they got a lot of good performances. I talked to Mickey after the game. A lot of good performances from a lot of kids.
Yeah, Alexandria is starting to find that consistent supporting cast, the Jack one, and that's huge for them going forward if they're to accomplish their goals. The things they have, the goals, expectations they've set for themselves entering this season. It can't just be the Jacqueline Hosier show, and
That's right.
the kids are starting to learn that, and I think the kids that are getting opportunities to to do something are doing it, and now and they're getting comfortable in their roles. Lily Harp and Riley Kellums, Kylie McFall. So again, that's just really good news for Coach Mickey Hosier's team, and as they roll along into the end of their 2024 season, roll into that Richmond tournament, I guess, too, and then the start of 2025 portion at the Madison County tournament, which they are not in a favorable bracket. The top teams are not in favorable brackets in the necessarily in the tournament. We might not have the best matchups in the championship.
All the best teams are on one side of the bracket, and I know we don't need to harp on it again, Michelle, but that needs to be probably needs to be seeded somehow.
Yes, it shouldn't. I mean, again, because I know we don't want to harp on it, but we have talked about it. I think it takes away from, I think it takes away from your attendance a little bit too. I think your best game should be in the semifinals and in the finals, and and when I say best games, it doesn't necessarily mean necessarily a close game, but your best played games.
All the best teams.
Yes.
All right. Here are Coach Hosier's thoughts on the win.
Yeah, we got off to a little bit of a slow start. Blackford had a good plan in the first quarter and kind of slowed us down a little bit. but then we ended up get it going, got the game to the pace that we wanted to, and ended up putting 28 points on the board in the first quarter. So it was a good start.
I assume that started with the defense.
It did, yes. We had to get a couple of baskets in so we can get into our press. But once we were able to find a couple baskets, we were able to extend our pressure, and then that really affected Blackford.
And who played well for you tonight, Coach?
Yeah, so Jacqueline had 28, and Lily Harp had 11, and then fellow seniors Kyla McFall and Riley Kellums both had 8, and then freshman Conley Davidson added 6. So pretty balanced scoring, and that's the way we like it.
Michelle, Frankton head coach Jeff Bates is a lot happier tonight when I talked to him after they beat Eastbrook 51-21. The Eagles are now 5-6 overall, 1-1 in the CIC. Eastbrook falls to 3-6 and 1-2 in the conference. Of course, a reminder: Eastbrook is the reigning co-champion of the CIC. Frankton led 13-8 after the first quarter, then outscored the Panthers 17-0 in the second. Frankton was very balanced. Emiki 12, Layla Dietzer 12, Sophia Hoagland 7, Addie Moore and Lainey Hamaker 6 points apiece. Only 3 players scored for Eastbrook. Seniors AJ Brenner scored 13, senior Mia Bustos 4, and freshman Kayla Cochran also had 4.
Yeah, that's a big win for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Just because they've been so back and forth and up and down
Yeah, just
this
that
season.
it was convincing. That was the big thing.
Yeah, and I think that's it. That they pulled away, they established, because even some of their wins this year over some weaker opponents haven't been what you would necessarily say um, impressive. And I get that they're not always going to be that way along the way, but it's one thing to be beating teams even in a close game, playing good basketball, as opposed to you know being in a close game playing bad basketball. And
Right.
I really think that Frankton, up to this point, up to Friday night, had been playing a lot to kind of to the level of their competition. They're had a
Mm-hmm.
great game. Played really well against Lapel. Played a really good first half against you know, Alexandria, and then had some
Yeah.
losses that they shouldn't have. Or so I think tonight maybe is a step in the right direction because they didn't play to their level of competition. They played to perhaps the level of the tradition of Frankton.
Right. Well, and
But
Coach Bates actually said it was the best they played since the back-to-back games against Lapel and Newcastle. And and we'd kind of been referencing that stretch when they played well, and he said this was the best they had played since then.
well, again, and that's good because this is about the time of year you want to, for the girls, not for the boys yet, but for the girls. This is about the time of year that you want to start to turn the corner. You want to see improvement in your team. You don't still want to be playing your best ball at this time because you still have, a little more than a month of the season left. But this is where you want to start to turn that corner. And, Friday night's game may have been that moment where Frankton turned the corner and is just gonna start getting stronger and better every day.
And here is the aforementioned Jeff Bates. Well, Coach, it sounds like a really nice bounce back win for your team tonight.
Greg, it was fantastic. We did a lot of the little things we had been working on. We had a lot of players really step up tonight, and that was exciting.
Who were those players?
There was a little bit of everybody, honestly. It was probably the first game that we've had since maybe Newcastle or Lapel where everybody did one way or another. And I was really proud of Macy Curtis. She wound up coming in, getting 10 rebounds, protecting the rim, several block shots, and about 4 assists. And that was huge
Wow.
for us.
Yeah, that's a big performance. What did your team do well, Coach?
We took care of the basketball. We only had 10. We only had 10 turnovers. We've been trying to get those down, get those to single digits, and so we were real close tonight. But we took care of the ball well. Layla Dietzer really ran a good floor game for us, so that was nice. And she had 10 points herself, so it was a good all around game by several players.
All right, Tri Central beat Eastern 45-38. Tri Central is now 5-5 overall, 1-2 in the conference. Eastern falls to 0-10. For Tri Central, Layla Keith scored 10 of her 12 points in the second half. Junior Logan Creason had 15 points. Junior Angela Dempsey scored 6, and Olivia Dempsey scored 5. For Eastern, Marley Cohn had 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Kinsey Eagle, 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals. And Elle Winger, 8 points and 2 assists. I can tell you, I got a text from Coach Korn, and he thought they played without any enthusiasm, didn't respond well into adversity, and they need to do a better job of responding to pressure. So, didn't want to talk after the game, but did share his thoughts. He said it was ugly, but at least they got the win.
Yeah, I talked to you about this earlier that I just feel like that when you go to Eastern, um, sometimes you just get ugly games.
Yeah.
It's one of those gyms, and I think sometimes it's a gym, you know.
Yeah. We've all
That's
been there, I
yes,
think.
and yeah, and you know, conversely, I'm going to guess that Coach Sarah Murphy of the Comets, she was probably really pleased to see her team, within striking distance of Lynn. And as you try to, you're as a first year coach, you're trying to build something again. It's baby steps, and you need something positive to take out of each game moving forward. And for her, I'm sure being competitive probably close to the end of that game is something positive that the Comets, the Eastern can take forward. Um, I'm not surprised that Matt, Coach Korn, is a little disappointed because I'm sure he expected to do better. But again, I think I feel a little bit because I think Tri Central went through a stretch where they played Madison-Grant, Westell, and now Eastern. And no offense, because I think Jace is a wonderful coach and does a nice job at Madison-Grant, but you know those three teams are not,
Pretty bad.
they're not going to challenge for anything at the end of the year. And
Right.
for Tri Central, I think so. They're not really, you want to be really kind of sharp, and I know they're starting to get bodies back, which that's probably part of it because now you're introducing more and different players onto the court to play, fill these roles. But, I just think that maybe Tri Central needs to still gel a little bit. They probably, to be honest, they probably need to really kick in and play somebody. That will happen next Friday when they have the girls boys doubleheader with Clinton Central. Clinton Central's got a good girls basketball team, and the Davidson girls are a really nice player, which should challenge, which should be pretty good to challenge Tri Central a little bit. And and I'm sure Coach Korn's going to tell his team that, hey, if we don't play better than what we did against Eastern, we're gonna be looking at conference loss in the face.
And I can tell you that Eastern coach Sarah Murphy was quite happy after the game. She sent a message that said, "It's starting to come together for us." She said, "Overall, pleased with the way they played," and she continues to see improvement. So that's good news, like you said, for Eastern.
Yeah, it is. It is, and said Sarah knows she's in for the long haul. It's learning for her too because you know she's a varsity coach, and she really with very limited high school experience as at coaching at that high
Mm-hmm.
school level. She was a high school player for a very good Lady Devils team and under a very well coached Lady Devils team in the um, early 2000s with Kurt Ogden and everything. She's was part of that team that made it to the Final Four, lost to Fort Wayne Lures in the semi-state in the championship game of the semi-state in a tough battle. So she knows what it takes to be successful, and she's willing. She's a great and has always been a hard worker and has always had an astute um, mind when it comes to basketball. And so I'm just excited to see what she does continue to do at Eastern because I think from what she came into the season with and what Eastern has accomplished so far has been, you know, pretty pretty good. And they're not. It's not like they're getting beat 60-6, every night.
Right, right. Kokomo fell to 7-3 after a 54-45 loss to Class 4A number 8 McCutcheon. McCutcheon led 19-4 at the end of the first. Kokomo outscored the Mavericks 26-19 in the second half. Kokomo was led by Michaela Drake and Avi Pollard with 9 points apiece. Eliana Stewart had 4 points and 12 rebounds. Satira Scott, 7 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists for the Wildcats. McCutcheon was led by Kiara Lipscomb Allen with 22 points, Lily Graves with 12, and Amira Gibson had 7 points and 7 rebounds.
Yeah, and McCutcheon's Riley Wetz, who is the daughter of former Tipton coach Chad Wetz and and Audrey Wetz, who Audrey is a harp. Riley and Lily Harp are first cousins, by the way, of Alexandria, and they played some AAU ball together in their in the past. But she scored 2 points and had 5 rebounds for McCutcheon. She has already declared and committed to and signed her letter to continue her basketball career at Grace next year. So um, just wanted to give people a little update on what Riley did on just the Cats.
Anderson is 0-10 after a 68-34 loss to a good Purdue Poly Inglewood team that is now 8-2. And University improved to 4-4 with a 55-18 win over Burris. Burris is now 1-10. Didn't get any details on either of those games. And real fast, Michelle, Saturday's lineup. The biggest one, Mrs. Sinawal at Oak Hill. Mrs. Sinawal is 3-5 overall, 1-0 in the CIC, and has won their last 2 games. Oak Hill is 9-1, 2-0 in the CIC, and has won 5 straight. That game is at noon, and we expect to hear from Scott Hunt after that one.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Did we ever learn or hear if the 2 technicals against Mississauga in the fourth quarter, if they were against the same player, which if that happens, that player would have to sit out?
I don't know.
Okay. That's key because if they're at full strength,
Yep.
Mississauga, I think if Oak Hill overlooks them, can give them a game. If they're not at full strength, it will be really hard.
If they're at full strength, it'll be really hard. Oak Hill's
Yes,
going to win that
but
game.
I mean, when I said if they're not at full strength, I mean it'd be really hard to
Yes,
challenge
I
them.
know.
Yeah,
Either
at
way,
all. And I'm not. And I think maybe full strength because it's a rivalry game. You might be able to challenge them
yeah.
for a little bit.
That is a good
Like,
Oak Hill team, and their results get more impressive seemingly game after game. So I think that's going to be a big game for Oak Hill. 2-8 Tipton goes to 6-5 Lapel. That game's at 1:00. And Marion goes to Huntington North in a game that should be really competitive. And Grant Schaus, that's a 7:30 game, by the way. Grant Schaus will have the call on that one on the Action Sports Network. And we expect to hear from him after the game for a report on that one. 8-3 Mount Vernon goes to 5-3 Yorktown in a conference game. 2-8 West Lafayette is at 1-9 Hamilton Heights. First win Thursday over Logansport for the Huskies. Michelle, by the way, that game's at 1:30 tomorrow.
Yeah, the Huskies got a big win for them the other day. Tough year after all the success they've had recently. So kudos and kudos to those kids for just keep battling and persevering. It's not just the loss of all of their most of their top players, not all of them, most of their top players from a year ago. And then, just the school, everybody with losing Jared Mason, the principal, and because I'm telling you, I know that has an effect, and maybe it's kind of given some, the teams there a little bit of impetus to, play hard and to want it to do well, in Jared's memory, because, like I said, he was one very well liked administrator by students and staff.
All right, and I saved this one for last, Michelle, because I wanted to get your um, thoughts on the past here. 3-5 Northwestern is at 4-4 Benton Central. That game's at 7:30. Of course, Benton Central is a four-time state champion. What are your memories of some of those teams back in the '80s?
Well, let me tell you, I covered Benton Central was in the Hall of Fame in 1985. That was the year that Tipton won. Tipton was led by Shelley Roby, who had an outstanding college career at Butler. They were led by 1987 Indiana All-Star, who had a very good career at Purdue. It's coached the Red Devils and is now an assistant IHSA commissioner in Jane Calhoun Schott. They also had Rita Hollingsworth, who went on to play college ball, do some stuff. Nadja Cook was played golf at Nebraska on that team. Christy Guffey Dolzel, Tipton's tennis, who helps her daughter coach Tipton boys tennis. She was a member of that team, and my sister dressed on that team. And Tipton beat number one Noblesville in the semifinals, and Benton Central beat Forest Park, and so it was Tipton and Benton Central in the championship. And Tipton won, but it was my first chance to actually meet Jane Connor afterwards and interview her, and wow, I mean, it was great. And the great thing is, Jan never forgot me after that. And because I'd go down in the state finals, or if I saw her somewhere, and even when she was not coaching anymore and would just take in a game, Tipton was in the conference, like women's, girls game, and I saw her, and she left quite a legacy there at Benton Central. And I know a lot of people, because Jan did a lot of yelling, and I think that's probably what hurt her a little bit of her career towards the end, because you just seems like every year you just can't get real fiery with kids. And she yelled a lot, but it came from intense, it was from an intense competitiveness, and she truly really loved her players. I mean, she might be tough on them, but I think they also knew that she was really good. But they had some great teams, great players. One of the teams I really remember, and I drove, was the first time I'd ever went to Benton Central to watch a game. Kokomo, with Tiffany Longworth and Messina Oliver and Carrie Stover. They were playing at Benton Central, and I was gonna ride with Tiffany's parents. They forgot, so they had left, and so I had to drive. And this is before we had Google Maps on our phones, or GPS systems in our car, and so I'm having to try to dig out a map and find my way, and somehow I made my way to Benton Central. And Benton Central had a guard by the name of Chrissy Smith, who went to Arkansas, and she was it was an all-star behind the trio of Longworth, Oliver, and Stover. And what I mean, that was a really nice game. Kokomo won, but I mean, that play. Benton Central's gym was packed for that game, and it was really cool. And they've just had some outstanding players. And then when Tipton was in the conference with them, it's always tough to go over there and play. Tipton did get upset them one year when Brooklyn Jude and Taylor Degan called, Casey Jude, and those guys played, and it was a tremendous game plan. Give Coach Nick Comer and his staff a lot of credit, and the guy squad that they practiced against every night. Those guys took it serious. They they took it, actually would take Benton Central's playbook home that Comer gave for the scouting report to practice, and they would read it at night so they could come in and they could run Benton Central sets in practice, and that paid off because Tipton got a big upset win. So, I mean, Benton Central, it's really kind of sad this year because I'm so used to some of the scores I've seen. I'm so used to them being a powerhouse,
Right.
Hoosier Conference, and they're just not quite there. And of course, one of my favorite memories is Benton Central and Northwestern actually played in the state championship,
Wow.
but Benton Central got the nod from the south and Northwestern from the north. And folks, if you don't know your geography in the state of Indiana, Benton Central is northwest of Logansport. I mean, you have Northwestern, but they were the
Yes.
south representative. Santee had to go all the way down to Jasper to cover the semi-state.
Crazy. Thanks again to Michelle. We will have a boys basketball scoreboard early in the morning. So look for that one. We had lots of action on Friday night, and we talked to lots of coaches and lots of media, and that one is going to be a long one. Thank you to Elwood head coach Courtney Lickliter, Elwood sophomore Breelyn Norris, Alexandria head coach Mickey Hosier, and Frankton coach Jeff Bates for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report. But most of all, thanks to you for listening. If you like the podcast, and if you have listened this far, I'm guessing that you do, please go like, subscribe, or follow us right now so you don't miss a single segment. Right now, we got lots of high school basketball stuff, but in the future, we are working on IU, Purdue, Pacers, Colts, all kinds of stuff for our listeners. Your one-stop shop for Central Indiana sports podcasting. I know that you've thought of someone who you think they probably would enjoy the Central Indiana Sports Report. Please, right now, copy and paste a link of this particular podcast and send it to him right now and ask him to give it a listen. We would thank you so dearly and be forever in your debt. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. Allison.